Today's sewing tutorial is on how to upcycle puffer jackets into bags. I got this child size one secondhand and I've already cleaned it. It's in a pretty good condition. Only part that's worn out are the bias bindings on the cuffs and the pockets. This is a down feathers jacket and it's reversible. I will try to keep as many features that's built into the bag, like the zippers and this inner pocket. The hoodie is already shaped like a bag. It actually looked like those Uniqlo style crossbody bag. It has a gazette in the center, which will add volume to the bag so we can put more stuff inside our bag. The zippers are reversible. You see the zipper head, it can make a U-turn here and then you can open it from the inside. For the messenger bag, we can use the body of the jacket to make it. There is enough material on the back to create a fold over flap. The sleeves, we can use that to make the straps and also as standby materials. Just in case we make a mistake, we will still have some materials to fix it. If you make a cut, the feathers will escape. They are lightweight and they will be blown all over the place. They are really hard to stuff back into. So to lessen the mess, you can sew 2 lines to surround the area that you are cutting. On this jacket, the channels are very well sewn. You see that there are 2 stitch lines on the channels. If you cut in between them, the cut will come out pretty clean and almost no feathers escaping. Another thing that's good to know is that the lining is attached to the outer shell at places like the zippers and hem. So you have the choice to snip them off and cut the lining patterns out separately. You can also get a seamless finishing if the lining is not attached to the outer shell. When the lining is detached, you can use the burrito method to sew up the flap. The seams will be hidden inside the flap. Otherwise, you can just bias bind the seams to hide the raw edges. So there will be examples in the tutorial. Alright, so let's start with the first tutorial. I'm gonna show you how to make the hoodie bag. Over here, I'm tacking the zipper shut. I've already hand stitched around the neckline, and as you can see, running stitches does not work that well here. Most of these feathers ended up on my window screen. There will be a gap on the hoodie, so I cut out 1 channel from the sleeves to close it. Fold over the short ends twice and sew it in place. The side will go on this area. So we need to fix the zipper part with bias binding. The ends of the bias binding will trail down a little past the sides. I open up the bias binding tape and mash the edges, right sides together. We will sew around the zipper tail.คนโทรมาเมื่อกี้เขาลงไปข้างล่างมีคนโทรมาแล้วเขาก็ลงไป I hand stitched the other side of the bias binding. It gives better control when stitching this way. You can cut out a square piece that is about 2 centimeters wider than the area we are covering. The right sides of the fabric are faced together. Flip it back out and try to refill it with the feathers. Now you can slot it into the zipper, the end of the zipper, and sew across to keep it in place. I use carabiners instead of D-rings to hold the straps. This way I can reuse the straps that I have sewn in previous projects. This strap is from a drink holder that I made a few years ago. There's a loop on one end and another loop formed by the adjustable buckle. This is what the hoodie bag looks like. It can be used reverse because of the zipper, but I like it better in black. For the messenger bag, I roughly draft out the shape of the flap. We will drew it in a later step. The flap goes down to the underarm area and joins the front part of the bag. I make some zigzag lines around the area to be cut. I remove the zipper because it could be a liability. So like, what if it breaks open? I have no zipper head to close it. I pin the outer layer together. We will sew that close. For the lining, we have to sew it with the right sides facing each other. So here is how to fold it into position. Pin it up and sew. To flip it back out, pull out the correct side. I want the flap to be folded a little bit more downwards. So I'm going to trim off part of the front and also through the flap's shape, like make it more symmetrical. So this part is going to be quite messy. The lining is detached at the flap area and the bag's opening. The bottom is still open, not sewn yet. Move the lining out of the way. Now we will sew on the two strap holders. So we will sew the strap holders just like in the hoodie bag. So move the lining out of the way and sew only on the outer fabric. The next step is sewing the quick release buckle onto the flap. But first we will make some marks around the flap. They will be used as reference points when we sew the flap up. I'm using an elastic band to hold the buckles. Thread the elastic band into the buckle on both ends and sew across to lock it in place. We will place the buckle upside down with the elastic band on the edge of the flap, and we will sew it in place. We will tack it down first. We have to sew on the wrong side of the fabric. To do this, we will roll up the bottom and wrap the lining over to meet the outer flap. Use the markings to pin them together. We will sew most of the flap together. Make sure that the buckle is inside the flap. You just try to sew as far as you can go. And then the leftover part, we can do it in another step. Use any of the openings to flip the bag out. Now we do the same with the bag's opening. Note that we will leave a gap at this area on the sides so that we can flip the bag back out. Next step is top stitching around the flap and the bag's opening. This step will also close the gap that we left earlier. I want to create a rounder shaped bag, so I'm going to pleat the sides. So I'm going to pin a 2 centimeter fold on both sides. Before we sew the bottom shut, insert the quick release buckle right at the center. I was going to hand sew some lace trim over the bias binding, but I found out that black Posca also works, so I colored the bias binding black. We have the sleeves left, so we will make a back strap out of it. Trim off the channels on the sleeves in between the stitch lines. Square each channel before cutting. Then join the ends into a long strap. I did the same to the lining piece. And now we will sew the long sides together with the right sides of the fabric facing each other. Flip it out and sew both ends so that there is a loop to hold the carabiner. Loop like this. So last step is just shaping the bag. I sew this area close at the bottom of the flap to create like a rounder shape. And here is the completed bag. these bits and pieces left over. I'm going to make a flexi frame pouch. It would be great for like putting your earbuds or keys. I cut out 2 rectangles each from the outer and lining fabric. We will sew the opening part first. Here I should have sewn down 4 centimeters, but I did just 2 centimeters. It will still work, but I didn't like the look. Just sew. We will make a snip. This will allow the fabric to fan out and not make a crease when we sew the body of the pouch. Move the pouch opening away and sew just the body part. Here to here. See that it is. The rear's not connected. It's not connected. On the lining side, we will do the same. Just leave a gap to fit the pouch out on the lining. We will sew from here to here and leave a hole. So I think I make a mistake here. This is not deep enough because so if I put this in, this part will have to be on the outside. That means that the pink will show. It will look like this. I don't like it. I rather have. But if I fold it inside, then I have to poke a hole here to let this one out. So that means that when I was making this part, it should be about 3 centimeters. I should measure 3 centimeters down. So I'm gonna go fix it. Slot in the flexi frame. You have to open one side of the frame. There is a pin which I lost, so for the time being I'm using this makeshift one. I hope you like this tutorial. It's one of the longest that I made. See you next time. Bye bye.